Good morning. Thank you for joining us at the Center for Ideas on our project I See Voices, where we interview student activists. My name is Gabrielle Tola. I'm your moderator today, and this is my coworker Kaylee. Hi,
Hi.
Kaylee. Um, I go by she, her pronouns. I am a writing major with a Latinx studies minor.
Yeah. Kaylee, I'm a junior sociology major with minors in education studies and communication management and design. She, her, hers.
And it's a pleasure to introduce you guys to Nicole Bethany today. So, Nicole, thank you for coming out with us today. How has your day been so far? How's finals week treating you?
Um, um, a second to last finals week. It's a lot of finals. Well, a lot of weight, I guess, to those finals. So just trying to handle it all.
Yeah,
But yeah, thank you for having me. I appreciate the opportunity.
of course. You're a senior, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, going through it. But your involvement's amazing. So I wanted to ask you first and foremost, like, what is your definition of a student activist? What does that mean to you?
Um, a student activist. Yeah, I think the term is interesting because when I look at the term, student student seems to be the adjective here, describing the noun, and I think that's interesting because as a student activist, a lot of what one may fight for is directly connected to their experience as a student. Um, I think I find myself at odds with the term, or not the term, but the action of being a student activist, especially because a lot of students don't ask to be student activists, but they end up falling into it, especially folks of the global majority, folks that just have to consistently always fight for their voice to be heard in predominantly white institutions. Um, and it it's frustrating, I think, for me, um, because I can see the people that um, just other students behind me, other students that I've even my peers that are just tired, that are just burnt out, and I think that burnout is a byproduct of the the need to have a student activist, where it's like, why can't we just be students? And I know that's like a I kind of know the answer to that clearly, but it's just, it's just interesting to me. So yeah, I think in terms of the definition of a student activist, it's definitely an activist who is a student, but a lot of what they may be fighting for is connected to their experiences at school. And that right away, I think, impacts the way they go about their activism. And I think it is still a beautiful thing. So that's why I said I'm like at odds. So like there's one side of the spectrum where I'm like, I wish we could just be students, I wish we could just come to school and we don't have to worry about certain things. And we don't have to worry about, um, I don't know, just there are certain things that I know for myself, in my experience, that I've had to deal with or think about, that I don't think I should have to. And I've spoken to some people in the administration about this. Like, I don't think students should have to worry about certain things. And of course, like nothing is perfect, but I think sometimes we may forget that. And even the student activists themselves, although nothing wrong with being a student activist, we may forget ourselves that, you're just a student, you're paying tuition, and like it's expensive, and like you got to graduate. Like remembering your original intention to even come to this school, So like to give yourself grace to take a break, to give yourself grace to like step back and not have to do anything. You don't always have to do something. You don't always have to be the one fighting for everyone. That is not possible. So I think it's a loaded term there. Because I think we carry a lot of weight, not only as a student, but also as people fighting for other, not only other students, but a lot of times those are the the, the closest people to us, that we end up fighting for. So yeah,
Thank you. Yeah, I totally agree with that. I feel that the word activist within itself as a label is very nuanced and tends to like lose meaning over time, especially because it starts to become something that's co-opted and then something that's taken advantage of and something that's commodified, especially at the hands of institutions. But we do like to take this not this program, this this project that we have together to highlight people that are doing work in our campus community. But I totally agree with you. And there's a lot of privilege for students who aren't of minority identities to get to just be students that we don't also get to experience. And it's very unfair. So I'm glad that you bring that up because I don't think it's a topic that has, I don't think it's like a subject that we've had to talk about yet on this show with others. Like everyone kind of tends to have a nuance with it, but I like that you said that because I don't tend to think of it from that perspective of like, oh, but we should just be students like everybody else. So thank you for that. With that being said, what is your history with activist work and why did you get involved with the things that you have?
yeah, I kind of just fell into it. I remember like, um, which I think a lot of people do. When I think back to middle school, um, well, backstory. I went to a predominantly black private school, when I was in elementary school. And I say that like I say predominantly black private school, particularly because it's rare. Like that's rare, and like I grew up in that. Um, that was like my first experience. Well, my second experience with school because my first experience was of course preschool. Um, but my preschool teacher was Hispanic. Anyway, I just had a great array of diversity when it came to the teachers I had. I had a lot of female teachers, from identifying folks. I had a lot of male identifying folks as teachers as well. I had like, but they were like black. Like that, like that's really cool. Particularly for where I live, I'm from New York City, and you'd be surprised, but in New York City, like a lot of the teachers are white. Like a lot of the teachers are white. A lot of the educators are white, especially in predominantly black and brown neighborhoods. And so I didn't realize what I was experiencing was rare, um, until my school, when I was around in sixth grade, shut down. And that school, before I even move on, like it really taught me about, um, it, they really were just all about making sure that these black kids knew who they were, like, period. Like, we learned about, they literally didn't follow the curriculum that the US had for, for us. We were totally on a different curriculum and we did well. A lot of the students that went to that school, like, did extremely well, or do well. Um, but yeah, we didn't follow the curriculum because, particularly, the curriculum, um, that the government wants us to follow. I'm not going to get too like deep into this. Doesn't really highlight black voices. Doesn't go into depth into black history. We all know this, right? Like, don't they don't go in depth in even American history, period. And it's told through a lens of white males, and so we we I was at an advantage where I learned so much about myself as a Black woman, as someone being Black in America. And so I was raised with this Black consciousness threaded within my curriculum as a student. I'm talking like first, second, third, first through like sixth grade. So in seventh grade, when I went to a predominantly white school, because I had to, I went to a predominantly white private school, and it was great. I was the only Black girl in the school, and it was very shocking for me. And that was when I realized, like, oh, like other people deal with this. Like, I didn't realize this was like other people have this experience where they may be, for in terms of my experience, the only Black girl. um, and yeah, I just remember that period being like just really desiring to be with my people. Like I loved my friends, and like they were great, and it was cool to learn how to be in a predominantly white environment because that was so new. Um, and I experienced a lot of microaggressions and macroaggressions, and I did not know what those were then. So I just thought that like people were just being silly. But it wasn't until I got to high school, really, my freshman year. Um, I went to Beacon High School, Manhattan, and the Beacon School. And yeah, it was interesting because they pride themselves on being diverse. And then I got there and I was like, oh, y'all think you're diverse. And so what happens in those situations is that like a lot of the Black and brown folks like really came come together, and so like we came together, and like we had to sometimes make our own stuff. And I was a part of the Black Student Union there, but I was also just always involved, period. I think I've just always been a student that's been involved. And because from sixth, seventh grade, the spaces I was involved in were predominantly white, it always seemed as though I was the voice for the Black folks in the school, or like other brown folks as well. So I I really just kind of fell into it. When it comes to school here, I definitely had to make a conscious decision to do this, I guess. Not I guess, I had to. Especially because I think doing it in college, like I said earlier, and that's why I said what I said before, is just so different. In high school, like the responsibilities that I had were different. And although, like I said, I was very active in leadership and things like that, more so because, um, like, when I realized what was happening, I realized that, wow, okay, I'm the only Black girl, even though I'm not the only Black girl in the school anymore in high school. Sorry. Even though I'm not the only Black girl in the school anymore. Um, like, I see that there are no people of color, period, in these leadership positions. Why? So like I would like do them, and to show that, to show other folks behind me that like they can do it too, or to inspire them. A lot of my activism work is rooted in theater and entertainment, and I'm a writer, and I'm an actor as well, performer, singer. And so those things, a lot of the activism work that I do is threaded within that. And so it's interesting how over time it's morphed kind of outward, because I would usually write, I would particularly, for example, as a playwright, write stories about Black people. And like, whoa, like that's being an activist in theater in 2021. Can you imagine? But like that, like stuff like that. And so when I got to college now, like my freshman year, again, it was just this desire to be involved. And then also hearing people and hearing folks and hearing my peers, other students of color, is other students of color just like expressed to me that like they don't feel comfortable being here. And I was like, whoa. Like that again, I had the culture shock my seventh grade in seventh grade. A lot of people had culture shock in ninth grade. Excuse me. Uh, oh yeah, ninth grade, right? Is it ninth? No, that's high school. Yeah, that's high school. I forgot. Their
I
first year.
figured that's what you meant.
But yeah, their first year
Yeah.
of college. So yeah, that was when I realized, like, okay, like my experience has been, and I'm a firm believer. I don't believe in coincidences, and I'm just a firm believer that like things that I've been through, there's a reason and a purpose
Yeah.
behind it, and it's not just for myself, but to help other people. And so, I there's a reason why I had the experiences I had. Sorry, this is such a long-winded answer,
No,
but
it's
there's
cool, you're good.
there's a reason why I had the experiences that I had. Um, to be able, I think there's a privilege I have in the fact that, like, I been in many different spaces my entire life, having to deal with certain people my entire life, um, different kinds of people my entire life, like at this point. And so, yeah, when we started Black Student Union, um, that was kind of the beginning of saying yes to that. But it was just really, that was subconscious. The what was like in like the front of it was just like, this is a need and we got to do something about it. That's it. Um, it wasn't too much like premeditated thought. It was very much like Sophia Meadows and John Turner, and Bree. I forgot her last name, but we were all were just like, okay, like, why is there no Black Student Union? Um, and then also, can we collaborate more with other organizations that represent students, um, across the board, um, minorities in general. Yeah, that. It, I'm sorry it's so long winded. I just think I just fell into it. I don't remember. I don't. I don't. I did not wake up saying like I want to be an activist. Like I did not. I did not. Frankly, I will be honest about that.
Mhm.
Mainly because it's just a lot of work, and I don't think people understand that. I'm not gonna get into that right now. But it's just like a lot of work. It's tiring. This work is not like
Yeah.
fun all the time. I don't think. I mean, even even calling it fun, like what is that? Like it's just. And I think at school, particularly in college, I've seen my peers get tired and feel bad and tell me like, "Yo, I'm tired. Are you mad at me?" And I'm like, "No, please go be a student. I think I'm called to do this, and so regardless of how I feel, I have to do it. I constantly feel a tug to speak out for people or challenge, um, just challenge systems and things like that. So I think it's bigger than me. I think it's a calling that I have on my life, and so I think that I've said yes to that over the years. It's just been a process because, yeah, I was trying to run away from this because I did not really want to do this because it's just a lot, and there's just so much history behind Black women always being in these positions, um, and mm, but
Mm.
yeah,
It's exhausting.
yeah,
And it comes out of urgency. Like it's
yes,
not even an option that you get to pick and choose, but
that's
it's a
it.
necessity, as you said, with starting Black Student Union.
Yeah.
But I really love hearing that.
I'm sorry for
It's
the, this is so
exhausted.
long-winded. It didn't have to be long.
No,
Like the whole history discussion. I just,
no. We're
mm,
so happy to hear it. I am so happy to hear that you had such a good foundation in your elementary school. Because I think that like childhood development of character and personality really is what creates the foundation to be able to lead and even advocate for yourself later on in your life. I had a very similar experience with the culture shock from like not even because it wasn't that I didn't go to predominantly white school, it was like predominantly white and Hispanic because I'm from Miami. So it was weird in other ways. And then going from that with like a smaller school with people who care about you to like a big middle performing arts school with nobody who cares about you, but just with the curriculum looking to make workers and make entertainers. And it is so, it's really exhausting. So I
Wow.
appreciate you for talking about your background. It's what we got you here for, so no need to apologize. But
Wow, you said
yes.
something interesting. Sorry, I know I'm not the one interviewing you, but it's sorry. No, like you said something really interesting. Like the curriculum just looking to make workers.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that is, oof. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I think a lot of college is like that. Like being a
Mm.
senior now and like looking back, I'm like, wow. Like you don't really you guys don't really care about us. Like you just like
Yeah.
you don't.
Yeah.
You really don't. This is a business transaction, quite frankly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm feeling that more, especially my last year.
Yeah.
Um, I was talking to some faculty, and like we were just talking about certain. I'm on a committee in Dillingham. I'm on the idea committee, which
Bless
is
you.
um, the I'm on the idea committee, which is the committee for intersectionality, equity, diversity, and accessibility.
Mhm.
And um, it's cool that I'm here, and it's cool that I brought this up. I didn't plan on bringing this up, but yeah, I'm on that committee, and I'm the only student. The rest are faculty,
Oh,
and
that's
so we talk.
Oh,
Huh?
it's heavy.
interesting dynamic.
Yeah, I mean, there's only three faculty members, and we talked about dynamics right off the bat. Like in there, they're like colleagues to me, which is interesting. But I've learned that, so they're. It's been a I've had to transition to thinking that, but yeah, and they're like colleagues to me, not my teachers. And so we just talk about um, just how to. Well, so far, I'll say what we've been doing. We've been just thinking about like ways in which we can really create an anti-racist environment within Dillingham. Um, and you know, I'm a firm believer, and I have to credit Dr. Nia Nunn, who I work really closely with. She has taught me this. Like you can't not. I mean, I learned this when I was younger, but like it was just her what she her pedagogy and like her pedagogy reaffirming that like you cannot be anti-racist without being black conscious. Um, like that consciousness is so important, particularly within a United States lens. Um, and yeah, like that's something that I've been like screaming in those meetings. Anyway, I in that meeting, I've learned a lot about protocols. I've learned a lot about like it's not yeah, you know, I think the student activist, I think we mean well. I think something that I've learned as I guess a student activist um, is like or just someone who fights for those that maybe can't fight or are tired or don't feel like they can speak. Yeah, there's just a lot of like protocol, and sometimes things are not as black and white as we think when it comes to making decisions for institutions. And it's been a very humbling experience, but that's where I really, like you said, Gabrielle, like it's like oh like oh, okay, like so even though we want to do this, even though like we just like want to do this thing, everybody and all the faculty members have to vote on it because that's how the system works. And so now it makes me think about the system behind the machine. And
Mhm.
we're sometimes, I think, caught up in the people that are in front of us. We're caught up in the people that are in the positions. But really, it's the system behind the position. It's really the seat that is soaked in white supremacy. Because, quite frankly, if you just remove someone from a seat and put someone else and you say you're solving a problem, I'm subbing the school, then you you literally are perpetuating the same issue, but you're having that weight beyond that human being, that individual that has taken the place of the former that you are trying
Mm.
to get rid of. Anyway, so it's just interesting. It is definitely a machine. And one of my faculty members said, because I said it seems like the school is very reactive, um, in terms of just generally, like we tend to be reactive when it comes to issues. We'll just react for a moment and then that's it.
Yeah.
And so, how can we be proactive? And some,
Mm.
she's a professor, and she says, like I say her name, and she says, I also noticed that, and I think that just has to do with the business of a college, because it's customer service, and so
Yeah.
if the customers
Mm.
complain, they need to please the customer. But when the customer graduates, they don't got to worry about those customers anymore until the next set of customers complain. And so it's just interesting. It's food
Wow.
for thought. Yeah.
Yeah. I need that to soak in for a second. Cause ick. Yeah. Not that we weren't, that we didn't know, but yikes. It's just shifting accountability from person to person to person. And we'll sit with that because it is a systematic problem.
Yeah. And that's why I'm really for, like, so I don't love the term student activist, and why I really, like, I encourage students, even my current e-board, like, I'm not trying to stress them out. Kaylee was on the e-board too, like, and I definitely stressed her out. But from that I definitely learned a lot. No, but really, like, just, I mean, Kaylee, we've talked about it. Just like, it's okay to step back. I
Yeah.
mean, they taught me that, but also, like it's okay, man. Like, please, because it's remembering that it's like, yeah, you are fighting a system, a machine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So have some grace for yourself, because
Yeah.
yeah,
It's definitely difficult. Just like there's so much that you see that like you envision that you want for folks and you're hearing things and you definitely want to be that support system and like that microphone on these issues because everyone's seeing it and it's impacting so many people that you love and you care about and you talk to, but you're also caught up in it as a student. You're also dealing with it yourself. And so a lot of that weight, can anchor you down. And you can sometimes just get lost in like, okay, wait, I am actually just 20. Like I'm young. I should not be the person that's always trying to like correct full on adults, right? Like it's very hard to sometimes,
PhDs. Sorry, I just had
huh?
something with PhDs. Most of them.
Yeah. Like it's an immovable force, like the system. So it's just
Like
like
what? That's embarrassing. Like
it's crazy.
actually.
It's crazy. Like you sometimes are just caught up in like, why is it that we all can see this and see the problem and like know maybe some solutions or just something to offer to people, and it's like y'all don't.
And that's
Y'all,
the thing, is like, what I'm learning is like, oh, they do.
yeah,
They do see it.
yeah,
Like, it's but there's the complication of the
hmm,
system. When the system is not addressed and one wants to bring solutions to
hmm,
a system that we're not allowed to really understand, we're just like treating the surface.
yeah,
Like, if you think about like a wound, I
Yeah.
recently got injured and I have like wounds
Mm.
on my, because I got burned. Anyway, I don't know why I need to say that. Anyway, I'm saying that
Okay.
because I'm thinking about
Yes.
wounds a lot, because I have some. I'm healing though and I'm fine now. But um, the wound, like, it heals from the inside up. And at the top of the wound, if you leave it exposed, it scabs when it's raw. When you leave it exposed and it scabs, like it actually like gets worse, and so you need to wrap it up and take care of it. And the it's interesting to watch it because from underneath it literally like helps the top. And I know that's kind of reversed, but when I think about like schools and I think about these systems, like the top is really the root. Like it seems reversed for me. Like the top is really the root of everything, and everything seems to trickle down.
That's
And
why it's a problem.
that's a problem. And so, visual like on social media and like in school magazines and online, like yeah, it looks like the students are on the surface and we are the ones that control everything. And
Yeah.
college institutions love to present, oh yeah, our students have 79 organizations run by themselves, and they have this that they do by themselves, and they fight for this by themselves, because that sounds good in retrospect, but in reality that's them shifting accountability and putting it on the student and forcing us to have to bear the weight of things that they need to worry about. And so we're on the surface, like visually, but in reality it's fully flipped.
Yeah,
And like there's only so much we can do. There's only so much a student org can do
yeah,
with a system as big as it is, that's been around for decades. Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's frustrating.
it is.
Yeah. You bring up UBS, USB, UBSU. I'm sorry, there's a typo. I know it's BSU. It's. Do you want to explain what that organization is and how you got involved and how the org functions in relation to the overall IC campus?
Yes. Oof, okay. um I'm gonna paraphrase everything, because we have our mission statement and stuff like that, and I don't have it up, but I know it. um Yeah, UVSU, Ujima Black Student Union. We decided to put Ujima in front of Black Student Union because Ujima is a Swahili word for collective responsibility. And this might sound a little contradictory from everything I've been saying, but hear me out, hear me out. Collective responsibility, I think, is really important, not only just for students, but people in general. And I think, now that I'm speaking and just us talking about folks that are in higher positions than us and stuff, collective responsibility should stretch to them as well. And I think I'm finding that uh, it is our collective. It is a part of our collective responsibility. I think as students to even understand things like that, to understand that we don't have to bear the weight. We can't actually, not even have to. We actually physically can't. I don't think we have the capacity to bear all the weight of the problems and the issues that go on this campus. But, however, I think it's our responsibility to advocate for each other, or and in many different ways that looks like. And so I think in terms of Black Student Union, that's something that we ad- are really trying to be proactive about. I know for me anyway, like especially just being the president and um, an active founder, like it's very, not only is it like my baby, but it's also like something that uh, I kind of set the tone for. And so I've gotten a lot of like feedback and pushback and a whole bunch of stuff, as much as praise as BSU gets. But I also bear the brunt of like all the mistakes. And so the other day I was like reminding like the e-board that's new. They're awesome. Um, this this club is a baby. This club is a baby. And so there's so many things we just haven't been able to do yet. And I think, when I think about our function in relation to the overall IC campus, I think of that. I think we are a baby and we haven't, I believe, really been able to expand our reach as much as I would love. I think we did a lot our first year. And so the expectation went from here to like there. And, post, not even post COVID, but just post quarantine and post the height of everything, it's been hard to get back. And, you know, in terms of just our mission, though, and this has evolved a little bit, um, it's not only about like teaching and raising up leaders. I think that's really important. That's something that I'm really, really, really passionate about, is raising up other folks, because like I cannot expect everyone to know what to do. And if I've learned something, there's a beauty in turning around and being like, yo, this is what I've learned. These are the mistakes that I've made. You don't have to make them. Go to sleep at night. Don't stay up all day trying to trying to figure out this solution to this problem, or trying to run this org. It's okay. Like, go to bed. And like little things like that that may seem so just mundane, but to the big things as well. Of just how to not only run an org, but also, even if you're not in the position to run an org, how can you advocate for yourself? A lot of times, students will come up to me and they want to speak with me, they want to ask me for advice, particularly on how to communicate with their professors. I've had students that come up to me and we have conversations and meetings where they explain to me a situation that they experienced. And I'm particularly talking about like Black students, and they've come up to me and they've talked to me about just like, the maybe the professor was being microaggressive, or maybe the professor has been treating them just differently from the rest of the class. And so my first point of action is to listen, and that's something that I'm trying to teach, like everyone in Black Student Union, is like, my first point of action is actually not to do anything. And I know that sounds contradictory to what we may see on social media and everything, but I think sometimes as activists, I I keep doing this. I'm sorry, but as activists, we move too fast sometimes. I think sometimes we just want to move. We want to do something. Okay, who do we punch first? It's like, whoa, 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 wait, wait a second. Let's hold back for a second, and let's not, because I think what the why activists bear so much weight is because I don't think we do a good job at teaching folks how to advocate for themselves, and understanding that that's something that looks different. Like, I'm speaking here, but there are folks that would be terrified to do what I'm doing right now, and that's okay. But how can you, as a human being, advocate for yourself in an effective way that may not be publicized on a platform? I think that's where effective and, like, I don't want to say real change, but I feel like effective change occurs in that, when we're fostering an environment of folks that say, okay, I have this issue, I know who to speak to, but this person is not just gonna like try and have a meeting for me, but they're gonna give me advice on how I can speak to that person. Because at the end of the day, when we leave here, I'm not gonna be there for everyone. Like, and the problem is, these issues that we're experiencing in college are, I would argue, are on a micro level, because it's a macro problem. Like, and so how are you going to deal with this in the workplace when you get out of here? How are you going to deal with things like, because it's going to happen again, it's going to come up. And so, yeah, I think BSU is about that, about uplifting and uprate and raising up folks that can advocate for themselves effectively, but then also providing community. That's something like recently that we've been focusing on. That's our focus word for the year: community. And everything that we're doing is geared towards community. And I've been really just trying to breathe and allow there to be room for breath. So, if you've come to a BSU meeting in the past couple of weeks, you may be like, we're not talking about, we're not analyzing anything. It's like, yeah, because I'm tired, bro. Like, and there are people that are tired and they've told me, There are students that have told me like, I would love to come to Black Student Union, but I honestly, after a long day of school, I don't want to really think too much. I just want to be. I just want to breathe. And Black Student Union is all about that as well. And that's something that we're trying to curate. So again, the baby is transitioning and growing. And so trying to, I think what I'm trying to do before I leave is really foster a community of a balance between activism, academia, and also um, community, and like just remembering like you're a human first, you're a student, then you're an activist, like, and that looks different. And like if you don't want to talk or do anything or speak up, yo, you don't have to, like, it's okay. um yeah, so that's currently where BSU is. That's where my heart is. And yeah.
And I'm glad because self-preservation is at the root of everything. Like, how are we gonna fight if we're not okay ourselves?
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I love that because I am a former e-board a member of several things, and I got so burnt out after quarantine that
Yeah.
I couldn't bear to get back on anything.
Yeah.
And I really respect that you can, and that there are like, because I have noticed the like dramatic decrease in like attendance of org meetings, and just like nobody wants to be out of their place. We're all just like struggling to get this degree and dip because we're all recognizing, we're all awakening to the fact that like I started my degree because I had a genuine interest, and then I'm
Mm,
starting to see how like we're being molded into working up to their
mm,
ideals.
come on.
And that's really hard to sit with when you like
Yeah.
come in with good intentions, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. But I love that. I love hearing about it. And so we'll have a couple more questions since we are talking about BSU. And so what's your favorite part about being the leader for BSU? But I think you kind of did touch on it.
I don't think about this a lot because it's pretty stressful. Um, it's nice notes. I appreciate the question. It's nice to actually think about that because it reminds me of like why we did it, and why I stayed, because many people have left. No shade to them at all. Like I said, like I'm a firm believer. Like you got to do what you got to do, bro, and you're a student first. As long as you get that degree, because that's why you're here in the first place. Like, um, but it's been hard because I've wanted to leave along with them, and I can't because this is something that I helped start, and I'm really carrying a lot of the weight. And so the beauty within this is that I I get the opportunity, I think, to just mold it and craft it in a way that better serves the community. Uh, I would say, I think I have a gift to like really observe the student body and to really see. I'm not saying I see everything. People, people have told me I miss stuff, but I think I can, I can observe. Like I knew that the student engagement would be low. There's so many folks that are like, oh my god, like nobody's coming, and I'm like, yeah, like I knew that. And so, how do you adjust? How do we adjust as leaders to the students? How do we adjust effectively? How do we? Because I think student organizations are a part of a machine. I find that. We have our events, we have our meetings, and we go. And I think post being in quarantine, a lot of my peers that are also leaders are like, yo, we're doing everything we've been doing, and like nothing is working. And I'm like, exactly, because we keep doing the same things over and over again and expecting them to work, but people are different. Like post everything. Like people are different. Um, I think people value their time more. It's interesting to see that. So I think my favorite part about being leading BSU is getting the opportunity to observe something and then like have the platform to do it. Um, I think about like the kickback, for example, that we held. Um, that uh, First off, I mean BSU from the jump, and I have to shout out Sophia Meadows. I know she may not see this, but like she's someone who like um, when I was secretary once upon a time ago, and she was president. Well, even before she was president, and she was I forgot what she was doing, but anyway, oh, like event coordinator. Yeah, like we would talk, and she would be like, yeah, like I don't know why we don't just collaborate as orgs, you know, and that's something that like I've been trying to keep. Like, yeah, we need to collaborate more, and we need to be more united. I think that makes us stronger. I think across just across different identities. Um, like we need to collaborate more, and so that was like the kickback. And there's so many. Oh, there always can be improvements. Always, but I just think that when I heard the feedback from freshmen and sophomores, I heard freshmen say like yo, like I didn't know Ithaca would do something like that. I didn't know like something like that exists here. Like this doesn't seem like the kind of school that would do something like that. And you hear those things. Someone came up to me and was like, "I literally am a transfer student, and it's been rough." And that event is like it gave her so much life, and it was just like, wow. And so I'm here like sweat dripping from my armpits because I'm tired because I'm running around like a chicken at the event. I'm not having fun. Like I'm running the event. So I'm like running around like and it was beautiful. I found glimmers of joy, which is important. And like the games we were playing or the dances and stuff like that. But like I was like stressed. But the beauty I think in that was just the opportunity to be able to see other people experience just a time to just be with one another. And I think that is the most fulfilling thing about doing this. Um, yeah, I really I love seeing that. I love seeing that. Um, it's more fun than it's more fun than the trying to write a letter to the administration part, or it's like I'm really kind of doing this for the students, not you, like it's like remembering that. And yeah it yeah, it's just, and then and hearing the feedback is always just surreal. um but again, that kickback was a byproduct of me assessing a need, and I like doing that because I think that's what leaders should do. I don't think we should just go on autopilot, because I think then we become a part of the system and we don't even realize it. And I think that's what they want. I think they want us to just be machines and robots. And, I've already said this and I have no shame in saying it. But, can we see that if something is not working, can we stop it and like kind of assess it for a second? Can um, we take a step back for a moment, even if it means we're not having a lot of events and programs? Can we take a step back and figure out what to do and how to better serve the people? Um, yeah. Also, I forgot to say that UBSC is also really connected with like off campus as well. And so that's also what teaches me how to really um, being a part of just being connected to Southside Community Center particularly. Like that is just, I was here over the summer and volunteering um, throughout the entire summer, being with kids, and that brought me joy because it reminds me of why I do this. And I think as a student activist, our scope can be so micro, and not, and that I don't think it's bad, but I think sometimes it's like remember, like we need a reminder of like, yo, there are kids after you that like are not even in college yet that like need attention too, and there's so much joy in serving them, and I see it as service. I you know, so I keep doing quotes because I really don't call myself an activist, but when I look at like a description, I'm like, oh, okay, I guess I am. Yeah, but I love serving. I think to be a leader, you're serving others, and to serve kids. I mean, it's such a privilege. It makes me emotional. Um, yeah. So yeah, that because they're gonna be me and you, Kaylee. So yeah, like all of us. Like so yeah.
That's really beautiful, Nicole. I am totally on the same page. I think children are our future, and it makes me so emotional to even think of such. But because we have touched on the subject of needing to step back and rest on several occasions, we always have this here as a call out question. We always prompt our interviewees to explain to us how do you balance work, personal life, and your activist work? How are you taking care of yourself?
I right off the bat say I don't, but that's being silly. I try, man. I won't say that I have the answers to do it. People always ask me, "How do you do it?" And I look at them and I'm like, I frankly don't know. I can't really give you a formula. But I will say that my faith is really grounding for me, and that's what keeps me grounded. I think it's important for one to really have something outside of school and academics and this work um, that brings them joy. One, my faith, my relationship with God, my community that's connected to that, like that's what keeps me going. If I'm being transparent with you, like prayer, God, I'm being so frank, and I'm saying that because I literally can't tell you like how I do this. I don't know. Like I I literally have one of the heaviest minors in the school, a writing for TV minor. It's really heavy um, because it's in Park. But then I also have a very heavy major. I have an acting major. And so, like, I've been told that I can't do that. I can't do both of them. I also was an African diaspora studies minor. And so, like, I don't know how I've been doing this, but going back to what I was saying before, I think it's a calling. And I think God gives everyone a calling. And I think there's certain things that you may even be doing right now that you don't even realize that, like, yeah, no, God, like, I believe, like, God created you to do certain things. And so you may find joy and peace in doing those things. And you may not have no idea why. Other people may look at it and be like, yo, that stresses me out. I'm out. And you're like, I'm stressed, but for some reason I keep doing it. And that's when it's beyond just something that you feel like doing for the moment. And it's like, no, that's like a part of your purpose. That's a part of like why you were put on this earth. And so I think in terms of how I do it, I have no idea, but I do know that the strength and the power, I guess, that I get is definitely from God. And so, yeah, that's how I balance my life. It's rooted in Him, and um, I I'm working on taking care of myself emotionally. Therapy is important. Sorry, therapy is important. I believe that it is. I'm sorry, I need water, but therapy is important, and in and I think it goes hand in hand with prayer for me and my relationship with God. Um, Personal life, again, something I'm still working on. This is I've since I've been the only black person in a school, like from the beginning of that, going back to like my history, I think I have always just fallen into being a student leader. And so, how can I just step back and be a student? I'm also an RA. And so, there's just a lot in terms of responsibility that I have that post grad, I would love to like not like see how that feels. How does it feel to not be a student leader? But at the end of the day, we say student leader again, student describing the noun. But honestly, a leader is a leader, and so I think I am a leader, and I think in every space I'm in, I'm going to be a leader, and so I'm still working and formulating that balance of work, personal life, and I don't think it can be balanced. I think there is an interruption. I think this work is kind of an interruption. And so it's making the cognizant choice to say, I am going to respond to that interruption, or I'm going to take a step back and focus on other things and put my energy towards other things. So I hope that answered the question.
Yeah, that tends to come up a lot, but I'm glad that you are at least learning to take care of yourself and finding that foundation within your faith to be able to persevere with it. And so, lastly, what is your call to action for Ithaca College students?
I think there are so many different kinds of students at the college. So I guess I wonder, who am I speaking to right now? Like, who am I? I'm asking y'all, like, who particularly am I speaking to? Because I think there are different calls to actions.
Maybe the general student body, but also because of your work to the community of Black students at Ithaca College or BIPOC at Ithaca College.
Okay. I'll start with the general body. Um, I think the call to action is to honestly, this is gonna sound so corny, but I just feel the need to tell people to like kind of wake up, just like a wake up in a way. I think we are so burnt out, but I think there's a way in which you can still healthily be awake so that you can be able to see what's happening right around you. Um, I think I think it's so important to remember, and I barely touched on this, which is ironic, but it's okay because I love talking about like the BIPOC community within Ithaca, like Ithaca, um, and love talking about the importance of just remembering the community that your school is placed in, like, and learning about the impact that an institution has on no, learning the impact that, yes, learning the impact that an institution has on an environment when it is placed there, right? Like, so there are kids that grew up, hearing about college, but no, good and well, they're not going there, right? Like, what is that? Like, that's interesting. That's crazy. But anyway, I'm not gonna go on a tangent. The two things is two calls to actions for the general body and then also for other folks um, of color. The first one I think is to wake up. I think especially for non BIPOC folks, um, yeah, like I don't know. I just it's I've been just hearing a lot. I've been hearing a lot. I've been hearing a lot. There's a lot going on, and it's not really being talked about. And I know that that's a part of my responsibility to make something happen. And bring in other leaders because this is not This is not a one person show. And yeah, sorry, I'm noting that because that's the other call to action. Okay, so the anyway for the general body, I think definitely like waking up, um, being cognizant and aware of what's going on. Also being cognizant of like of just the machine. I think like if we keep just functioning as these little robots, like you think about it, like sorry, I've just been thinking about this in a very interesting way. Like the concept of finals is weird. Like what? Like and then why are we stressed? And so the idea, like, I mean, I'm not saying that like you're not gonna be stressed, but it's like it's almost as if the stress is like publicized and like it's like yeah, like let's have these de-stress events and like because like you're gonna be stressed and we're making it so that you're super stressed and the way in which we put it, the way in which even the way in which they make teachers formulate the curriculum and learning outcomes and it's like okay wait a minute like why why are things set up like this like why are I think it's just asking questions asking the right questions not getting so like comfortable in doing the same things over and over again really like assessing what you're doing, assessing what you're being asked to do, assessing your other peers especially that don't look like you, like ask checking in on them, checking in on yourself, like I'm not getting into this, but Dr. Paulo Juanite has really taught me like just the importance of like assessing whiteness and like white folks like also like looking at themselves and so I'm not just talking about like bipoc folk like what whoever you are like whatever you identify as whatever race ethnicity you are you need to take a moment to check in with yourself check in on how you're doing check in on how you are being a contributor to the community your peers it's being aware of that because if we rely on the institution to do that for us, I don't think we would be satisfied with the result. I think it's really on the students, unfortunately. As much as I don't want it to be, I think that's the reality. So how do we respond to that effectively? And I think it's in waking up. I think it's in um, asking the right questions, not being afraid to challenge things, not being afraid to um, yeah, not being afraid to ask the right questions, the scary questions, not being afraid to ask. I think a lot of the things that I've done so far on campus with the help of others, I'm not a superhero. It's just been asking questions, really, asking the right questions. And if I'm told no, I ask someone else. It's really that simple. I like it's just asking questions, and so I think everyone has the capacity and the ability to do that. Um, because it doesn't have to be publicized and it doesn't have you actually don't have to have a platform to ask questions. It may be a little hard and seem overwhelming, and I definitely like would hope that whoever um, sees this like they know that they can watch. I mean, I'm sorry, not watch. That they can approach a student leader on campus. You can approach me and I can help in terms of like I said before, help you learn um, how to advocate for yourself in that way. But I think that all starts in waking up and recognizing that there's so much going on campus. Everything is like not okay, and that's okay. And so um, yeah, so that was the 1 plus 2, and that was like two jumbled into one for the general body. Waking up and just asking questions and asking the right questions. Though specifically for BIPOC students, I have one for leaders and then I have one for students. Well, I have one for leaders and I have one for folks that may not identify as leaders, but I think anyway, the first one for leaders I think is to remember that this is not a one person show. Um, I think I'm very tired of that. I'm very tired of just one person or a set of people, which is small, um, being the like spearheading a lot of things or certain things. And there's so many leaders throughout like the campus. I mean, like that may not be publicized or may not have a platform or may not have started an org, but doesn't mean they're a leader. I mean, doesn't mean they're not a leader. Um, and so, in terms of that, yeah, I think to make change, we have to work together, and I think we have to not only work together, but remember that we cannot do this on our own. And even when I think about organizations, student organizations, we can't keep trying to do things on our own in that as well. That's something that we learned at the kickback too. It's like we keep trying to have these big events within our smaller groups. There's nothing wrong with that, but there aren't that many of us. Is there a way that we can consolidate everything and come together more? When I think about the history, I think for the leader as well, it's looking at the history of like who came before us, and that's so important. And I think about ALS, and I think about the work that they've done, and in the past, like they worked together. ALS, the Afro Latino Society, like the African Latino Society, um, like they like work together. That's really it. And I think we saw a lot of we're reaping a lot of their fruit. And so when are we going to also produce fruit as well so other people can reap it? Other people can have the benefit of eating of the fruit that we produce. And so I give a nod to them and I say thank you to them because they came before us, and there would be no this, there would be no ideas, there would be not, there wouldn't be any of this without them and the work that they've done. And if I'm complaining about being tired, I have to think of them who were many of the spearheads of the ALS ALS and just other organizations that represent students of color. Like they were in the school when there were like five of them, a handful of them, barely anything. And so it's like, thank you. I say thank you to them. I think as leaders, it's important that we remember that and allow that to be our what's the word? Just allow that to be our point of reference when doing this work. The second thing for anyone you may not for someone who may not consider themselves to be a leader is I would challenge that, I guess, and challenge that and say like I think there's a way which you can lead, even if it's within your friend group, even if it's within like your your floor, if you live in a dorm, like there's so many ways in which you can lead, and I think it's first starts with recognizing that leadership looks different, and there's no correct way to lead. There are effective ways to lead, but in terms of just like the right way to lead or what a leader should look like, um, there's a diversity in that. So yeah, that's it.
Thank you so much, Nicole, for your time, for your words. It's all very meaningful to us. And I don't think we've ever had anyone mention the ALS in one of our interviews. So absolutely hats off to them, because where would we have been
Yeah,
otherwise?
yeah.
But
Thank you for
yeah,
having me. I really appreciate it.
of course. No, thank you for coming. And thank you for joining us today. Our Instagram handle and our everything handle is Center for Ideas on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, where this will be uploaded later. Yeah. Thank you so much for joining us.